Hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ. Thank you very much for being here. This week, as we do all weeks, we take a subject and we talk about it all week long. I have this philosophy of backing ourselves into a corner, but I think in this case, picking a subject to back ourselves into a corner to creatively try to navigate our way out of a subject that might seem to have kind of a limiting factor to it, or something very difficult to relate to. But I think in this case, with the sudden and unfortunate passing, at least to us common individuals, Chadwick Boseman, who played most recently played, I believe, 4 times the character Black Panther, and brought to us the Black Panther movie. I thought we would talk about it all week long. And this isn't a tabletop RPG channel, so for me, I feel like this is an honor to something that was created and something very important to me personally and somewhat historically. So I felt we could pull a lot of information from this. Now, as far as backing ourselves into a corner, I actually think we may have a little bit too much information, which is actually another creative problem when it comes to creating things for role-playing games is too many limitations or too open. Oftentimes there's this idea of having a blank white page and needing to create without a limitation that is just as hard as being given a handful of limitations and trying to carve your way through it in that regard. So just to let you guys know that this channel does go live on 3 platforms. We have our own Discord server. You can find there and drop down into our Discord server and slide down to the bottom where we are in the boiler room. But the show is also simulcast on YouTube and Twitch as well. And so you can participate in the show on any or all of those platforms if you wish. But today being Tuesday has been a grab bag, and I've been slowly shifting it, shuttling between Crunch Time Tuesday, a title that was excellently given to us by participants like yourselves, and TV, shuttling into TV and movies to tabletop RPGs Tuesday. It's a mouthful, but I think TV and or movie to TTRPGs is a pretty good thing because for anyone that listens to me longer than one episode of this long form podcast format, is that I bring up television and movies quite a bit. I'm a very visual individual. Not that I don't appreciate graphic novels or books or anything, which I do talk about sometimes, but I love the visual medium, the editing and color and design and pacing and all that kind of stuff. And so I thought, well, why not blend the two together? We could steal some things from it and pay an homage, maybe, rather than using the word steal. But I thought we would take today, and of course tomorrow's World Building Wednesday, so the two are going to kind of combine together to take some images from the Black Panther movie. Hopefully I won't be dinged too hard with this. It's possible, but I'm not sure yet. And talk about some of the origins of it and why it is that the Black Panther movie, for many people, well over $1 billion in sales, number of individuals, how many of the tropes are classic, and how we can take those tropes, these classic tropes, and kind of fit them into our own tabletop RPGs. Yep. Oh yeah, y'all DMs like Trope Tuesdays or Theatrical Tuesdays. And I thought about the Theatrical Tuesday. Yeah, I think that fits too. Drew, it's been a long time. Wow. Anyway, guys, thank you for very much for stopping by. So forgive me here a little bit because I'm a one-man show here, so I wanted to drop in some images and also talk about, if you're just listening, you don't have to see the images, but to like participate in the show visually and whatnot. So I'm going to see if I can do this. But one of the things one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about the culture of Wakanda is that we're given, there's world building done in the movie Black Panther, and in the world building, they give us a lot of images and they have to introduce to us a large number of individuals in which we. Ooh, what the heck happened here? They introduce to us a large number of individuals which we have to get used to very quickly. And one of the hard things to do in world building is that you have to get across to people in a very short amount of time, visually and through dialogue and such, who they are, what their purpose is, and in a short sense to lock them in emotionally, if not intellectually. Oh, thanks, Cam. Cam's like Technicolor Tuesdays. Ooh, that's an oldie but goodie. Um, so here, let's see if we can start this out, because there's a lot of, and we'll pop through the images and who these people represent, what they are. But we'll pop through these really really quickly. So one of the first things that we get right off the bat is this is a classic trope in a lot of nobility styled gaming and such, is you have to have the Queen Mother. Okay, now to the very right is Angela Bassett, and there are two other images of, both in fashion and reality, that the art direction took, and the Queen Mother image is very much like um, it is the person who tends to center the hero. The Queen Mother is also the one who gives out the best advice, right? Um, she's the one. There's in Game of Thrones. There's an actress. I do not remember her name, but she represented the Queen of Highgarden, and oh man, she was excellent in that. Yep, Jarl DM is like traditional, regal, powerful, experienced, and in some ways, in a narrative sense, like they can be they are usually the person that recenters the hero, the protagonist of the story. In many ways, like, I don't know what I should do. Where should I go? And then they default to, Mom, I'm lost. What should I do? Yeah. Oh, Lena Tyrell. Oh my God. Oh, she the that's the other thing when it comes to casting for these kind of things, is to have this individual show up and in very few words dominate the screen. God, I loved when she showed up. And the Angela Bassett character, Rumanda, is that particular character. And we're talking about role playing games here, so mechanically speaking, she could also be like the one that gives a boon. Hey, I'm tired, I'm lost, I'm confused, and here's this person that shows up, that's part of the character's life, that's like, listen, smack in the back of the head, you get yourself together. They're the ones that grab you by the shoulders, lift you up, you're crying, they wipe away your tears and say, get back to work, right? In gently or not. Now, the other aspect that they also represent is a little bit of they are an open threat, and in a number of ways. One open threat is they can represent a threat to the status quo. It's like, oh, we need to kill the royalty off, and this person still exists, and that also means there's another vector for your protagonist to fail or succeed without having to kill the bad guy killing them, because the Queen Mother is the one that needs to be protected, and so keeping them hidden, safe, away from danger, to ascend the throne, maybe, or this individual has a lot of influence. Maybe the player characters by themselves cannot gain the influence of an important important ally, but the Queen Mother can, and getting them from A to B is also a great story to tell as well. Now, in addition to that, here is another the Dora Milaje, the bodyguards in that protect Black Panther, and as he walks around and such. Hey, Andres, you're fine. Jarl DM says Charles Dance, who plays Tywin Lannister, also has the effect that he dominates any scene he's in. Oh, hell yes. He's the king's mother, father. The king's mother and father often have that powerful charisma. Um, the 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 individual who cast the Game of Thrones, and in a smaller sense, the Black Panther movie, did an excellent job finding the individuals to represent those archetypes. Man, Charles Dance's when sorry, side note, when I found out that he had never skinned like an elk, a deer, carved it up, and decided that he needed to be trained in it for a scene so that he could talk over the body of this animal while he's dressing down his son. I was just like, what, dude? He's awesome. Even his body language is sweet. His the ability to alter his inflection. Oh man, yeah, I'm with you there, AM. Oh man, it's so much dedication. Yeah, your DMs is such an amazing introduction with the deer skinning. Yeah, introductions sometimes are, you only have one time to make a first impression, and they did an excellent job with that. And so, yeah, but okay, squirrel a little bit. So the Dora Milaje represent the bodyguards, right? And now the reason why I'm making a lot of references from here to Game of Thrones is because, of course, Game of Thrones, very pivotal, people love it, but the relationships story-wise are universal, okay? In terms of like nobility and bloodlines and telling that story. And the Dora Milaje are the bodyguards. They're the gold cloaks. They are the king's guard. And a lot of times in a lot of these stories, you have, seemingly from the outside, you have a militaristic force, and they are from the outside, they seem one and the same, right? Oh, well, they're armored up, they have weapons, and they are stoic. Of course, they're all of the same mind, but many times the very trusted ones, the King's Guard, have a loyalty level that far surpasses the common hirees, the yeomen, the henchmen, the mercenaries that tend to populate the larger armies that go out to conquer other kingdoms. And the Dora Milaje represent that group, that organization. They are loyal. They are militaristic. They move with a fluidity and purpose that cannot be stopped. And one of the things that can happen in this kind of story is that from the beginning, they're surrounding the king. If, of course, mechanically wise, you need to have the king protect king, queen, royal family, whoever, well protected. But there's this other part to it that, where does their loyalty lie really? And does it lie with the current individual on the throne? Does it lie with a certain specific individual? Can they be manipulated at all? If they are completely inflexible, how do you move them when there's a question as to who should be on the throne? And so also, to what lengths, if given an order, will they follow them? And so, sure, in the beginning, they seem like a monolith, right? Like it's we know what we're doing. But once you throw a rock into the pond and there's ripples made, how do they react after that? And that's a great story thread you can pull by having the PCs on, day one, they're like, oh, we're pretty neutral to you. We don't care if you come and go. And then on day two, it's like, we've been instructed to arrest, you as a criminal, and we're going to put you down. And the PCs are like, what? Wait a minute. Why the flipping personality and aggression, right? Jarl DM says Kingsguards are often highly politicized in our own history. Yep, Persian immortals, Roman, Praetorians, they are factions unto themselves. And they carry with them like a historic weight that those who are inducted into that service, it's like a point of pride, like, ooh, I'm one of these. You know, in American military, it's like being a Green Beret, right? There's a little bit higher, your back is a little straighter, and you're given, the person who's inducted has a little bit of a more honor. Like, I better do twice as good as the next guy, because I don't want to let down this person. It's like they're not lazy, because just being inducted into that point itself and looking around at the other individuals with you does not make you lazy or incompetent or anything like that. Cameron says, to be honest, I think the casting in Black Panther was perfect. They all brought depth to their roles, especially the leader of the Dora Milaje. I don't know how to spell her name. No, you're fine. And the techie sister. I hear you, Cam. And you are absolutely right. The their bald heads. They put this intense beadwork into the women that represented the Dora Milaje. The idea that they're all recruited from different tribes and stuff is pretty cool. Cameron says, one thing I love about Kingsguards is how much of strength they give who controls them. As we saw in Game of Thrones, it's not just the king who can gain influence over them. And sometimes, like, it also represents, let me get to the other parts of the chat here. It also represents the fact that you could, as a leader, you can push your luck sometimes, right? Like, if you're in control, and your arrogance is like, I can give these people orders to do things. As we saw in Game of Thrones, at one point they were instructed to start killing bastard children, right? And when you give that order, do some of the guards look at each other like, we better follow this? And the other members of the guards are like, hell no, I'm not doing that. Yeah. Oh, Elena Tyrell, man, and Charles Dance. There is a individual on YouTube that talks about charisma and does a breakdown of the various characters in Game of Thrones, and does a really good physical breakdown of Charles Dance in his role in Game of Thrones. It's really good to see. Yeah, thank you, Tesla. Yeah, brings in Dora Milaje, an elite group of female bodyguards and Wakandan special forces. And now, there's also a bit of, like, there's also a psychological issue with bringing in the Dora Milaje, in the sense that, they're recruited as all women, and they're powerful as hell. And that can be an intimidating factor, especially when it comes to a very, especially when it comes to a very gender role stratified culture, which, with Wakanda being in Africa and the countries being around it, that certain gender roles you're expected to be in a certain place, and that can send out another image as well, visually, right? Oh yeah, and Tesla brings in the Praetorian Guard TV trope. Yeah, the Praetorian Guard trope is used in popular culture. Oh yeah, oh yeah. So, going further into this. Oh, also, one last thing when it comes to the guard. If we remember in the movie, like, and Wakanda itself is a great example of creating adversaries without creating enemies, because Okoye, who is the nominal leader of the Dora Milaje, the royal guard, says to everyone in it, like, listen, I would love to be with you. I would love to go along with you, but my honor tells me that I have to do something different. And you better leave now, because my duty to the throne means that I'm going to be your adversary, right? So it's almost like telling, it's the proverbial, like, I'm about to lay the smackdown on you, and I'm giving you a warning. You know, and that can be very important too when you have player characters like let's take the prototypical knights and such, because Wakanda is a reflection of that, where the player characters are doing the good thing, but they're breaking the rules of conduct. And, a knight's order could tell the PCs, like, hey, listen, we'll give you a day to run, because once somebody ascends that throne, you're enemies of the country. And so we're going to go after you, despite the fact that we really don't want to. And the moment, Okoye and the other Dora Milaje found out, they're like, oh, wait a minute. T'Challa's still alive? That means you're not our king. Let's hurry up and flip this around, Now, again, tropes and such, right? Here's a character named Zuri. And Zuri is the prototypical, like, the mentor, the sage, the again, like the Queen Mother. This is the individual that uncovers or the helps the protagonist put together a lot of clues to solve a riddle. Hey, we found out all this information. What's going on? This individual reveals ancient histories to the characters. Sometimes the Zori character kind of speaks to the audience as well as the protagonist to clue us in to the rules of how things work, whether it's the rules in Magic or rules from some kind of enemy in role-playing games. Sometimes it's many. How do you kill a vampire? Well, here are the rules of killing a vampire. So a lot of times they represent that individual. They also seem to be the loyalist as well, much like Alfred is to Batman. This individual is a non-combatant, but they're able to move things around in the background for the player character's purposes. Yeah, yeah, you're already there. Yeah, y'all DMs talked about, yeah. Charles Dance in Game of Thrones always makes sure he finishes his activity. If he's writing a letter, he finishes it even before looking up at you. His work is more important than anything you could possibly say. Yeah, I hear you. Y'all DMs answers with, sorry, squirrely. You're fine. And yes, he ensures that whatever he's doing is far more important than your presence. To let you know right when this conversation is happening. And he ends a conversation the same way. Like he'll start writing again, and he'll look up across his papers like, that was me telling you you're dismissed. Oh my goodness. Oh, excellent. Yeah. Hey, what's up, Rick? Yeah. Good morning to you. With the Wakandan salute. Yeah. Yeah, Rickard talks about the Dora Milaje, like she serves the throne, not the person on the throne, and that's an important distinction, especially if the player characters they need these allies. Like I said, adversaries, not enemies. If the royal guard is really powerful in the world, and the PCs are like, look, we're only like second or third level, and each one has been recruited, and we know for a fact they're like 12th level apiece. How are we going to fight them? Well, no, you don't fight them, but maybe you understand their motivations. Like, no, we don't serve the king or queen or nobility. We serve the throne, and we serve the rules that accommodate that particular service, right? Cameron says, imagine all the information a king's guard has to keep silent. Yeah, they overhear everything. Crooked ones could easily sell that information for quite a profit, despite the treason. And again, maybe that treason doesn't happen unless they are motivated to do so, right? And so that motivation to sell that information might come from being convinced, like, hey, listen, guys, I know you're serving the throne. This person doesn't belong on the throne, and here's the reason why. We got this information from our sage, our mentor, and our mentor says, here's some documentation that proves otherwise, right? So, yeah, Cameron says, Forrest Whitaker, who plays Zori, is one of my favorite actors. Despite that, I found his voice in this movie quite distracting. And despite that, I would have liked to see him used more. Hopefully we get more Zori. Yes, some of our greatest actors don't, it's very difficult for them to keep pace with an accent and allow us to understand, that has a lot to do with sound and and sound editing and mixing, and also, direction as well. The director can very well say, please do that scene again so that we can hear you inflect. That being said, the Zori character also helps take care of, the Black Panther's capabilities, right? Taking care of the purple flower in this sense. This character usually in role-playing games is usually like a mage and or a sage, and they open the door to magic and the unknown in a lot of role-playing games. This individual also can be under threat as well, needing to attention timer could be set, especially if the player characters need to protect, hide, or defend their mentor while their mentor is in the midst of doing something. If the mentor is in a library and it's like, it's going to take me so many hours to find the documentation you need, and that person's under threat, now the PCs need to maybe go in a chase or run or distract their enemies while the sage is doing the thing. Yeah, Rickard, I'm with you. He's like, yeah, was just going to say, Forrest Whitaker is another one like Morgan Freeman. If you shoehorn him in, yeah, you shoehorn him in there. You shouldn't. You should have your story and then get your characters together. But if he calls you up and it's like, hey, I'm available, you go, hurry up, write a character for him, right? Yeah, absolutely. So the Zori character does represent that, and the Zori character can also represent not just a sage, but they can represent an older family member or a military commander that has been retired and is being pulled back into the fold, and one or more of the protagonists need to talk to, reference, or protect this person. They also lend an air of authority to the player characters or the protagonists, right? Hey, this elder individual. Oh, that means that I should trust you. Again, like the Queen Mother, right? You put this individual next to you, and individuals who would not bother speaking to you may go, you know what, because you trained under this individual, or this person is your family member, or you are on first name basis with this individual, then we will uncover particular information. In some ways, like the Queen Mother and Ramonda and Zori, they can also be part of a MacGuffin, a fetch quest. Slight note, divergence: a fetch quest. A fetch quest is basically the PCs have to leave to go gather information or gather a MacGuffin, and so the fetch is going to get the object, the MacGuffin. The object need not be a physical, like a key or a box or a monolith or something, or a statue. The MacGuffin could be an individual, and so to unlock a door, sometimes you have to go on a fetch quest to get a key. People represent those same things. I need to go find my old mentor who trained me in the mystic arts to then bring that individual back to unlock a door, which might be someone politically important, etc., to gain some information to further the story. Sometimes the fetch questing can be a little bit too on the nose. I'm looking at you, say the movie Sucker Punch, where literally it is explained in the movie, you must gather these 3 items and to escape. Man. You guys talk about Warhammer and stuff all in Discord, but please feel free to do so. All right, so along with Zori, we do have other characters in Black Panther, and we have ourselves M'Baku, who plays, and there is a slight reference to it in the movie, but remember, Black Panther was created back in the 60s, if I'm not mistaken, and they weren't, some of the character names and their types and such, while they were trying to do a good thing, was kind of problematic. So the M'Baku's superhero moniker was Man Ape, and of course dressed in literally a gorilla suit with the mouth of the gorilla open and you saw a human face out of it, right? And it was very problematic, the imagery. But M'Baku plays an important individual. Again, this idea of creating an adversary as opposed to an enemy. Andres Martin says, "Oh, I have an adventure like that. Just that the mentor is a kraken and the PCs must protect him from paladin tritons." See, see, there you go. You know, it's the we need the person, place, or thing because it's important to further the story, and you have these other individuals that are like, no, we need to capture, imprison, destroy, remove the voice of the individual to keep them from doing said other things. Rickard says, I would definitely make up a new character and change things around if I got that phone call. Hells yes, you always more Whitaker does not hurt. Sometimes. Rickard says, I still say M'Baku was a reluctant warrior Black Panther, with Shuri as the ruling queen could be an interesting dynamic. Yeah, the M'Baku character for me is pretty important, both in the Black Panther movie and using it in tabletop role playing games, because the introduction is absolutely one of not just adversarial but enemy, right? Like, oh, this person shouldn't be king, I should be king, right? And when you introduce a character like that, yes, I know a lot of players want to go 0 to 60 and would rather just kill this individual in combat if that's how they were introduced. But here's an individual who shows up and is like, hells no, you're not taking the throne, I should be there. And quite stereotypical in many stories, right? You're stupid, you're a feeble fool, and I should be there. But as the story progresses, we find out that M'Baku is more interested in his loyalty doesn't lie in his own self-importance. His loyalty lies in protecting the country. And so there's a reason why when he finds T'Challa, Black Panther, nearly dead, that he doesn't just either kill him. He doesn't keep the information. Well, he keeps the information secret to dangle it in front of the other individuals that are like in a panic state. But he's like, listen, this T'Challa did beat me and did earn the crown, and I'm not that much of a bastard. And even goes so far as to like keep cultivating his own intimidating presence by making fun of the American CIA agent, talking about that shut up or I'll feed you to my kids. And then he laughs about it. He's like, no, we wouldn't do that, we're vegetarians, as if somebody would really believe the fact that he would take a human being and eat them, right? And the fact that people believe those lies, he's just like, of course they do. Why would I change that fact? And that's a great way to introduce an adversary, where to turn an enemy, supposed enemy, into an adversary, meaning that yes, they may be working against the player characters, but no, all the things the player characters heard about, lies. It's just stories that they allow to go out there, spread around, because maybe this individual that comes in individual or group or organization or faction or whatever that comes in contact with the PCs, maybe they're just like, listen, we don't really want to kill you, we just want to make sure you as the protagonist in the story are worthy enough to say take the throne, or worthy enough to be a thing. Instead of like, we're going to kill you when we find you, they're like, like, why did you fold when we tried to intimidate you? We don't want you to fold up, we want you to stand up to us, right? So the M'Baku character is pretty important in terms of telling the story, because of course in the Black Panther movie he ends up helping Black Panther, even to the point of refusing to take the purple heart herb that gives Black Panther his speed and animalistic senses, although they don't really put that into the movie. But the heart-shaped herb is the equivalent of like the super soldier serum. And M'Baku's like, I'm not going to take that because my honor would prevent me from doing such a thing. And yeah, he is the reluctant warrior. And also, a character like M'Baku sits in the background, and the player characters now know if they fail, here's this other individual who's ready to take the place of the PCs, right? Like if the player characters fail, let's say an uprising or something, M'Baku's just like probably the type of character to shake your head and go, "Yeah, I knew never to trust these young upstarts." Boom, they step into it, and they step forward and they get into the midst. Tesla puts in a Discord the Living Macguffin TV trope. Why did I not think that was a thing? But of course it is. Yeah, they say Helen of Troy had a face that could launch 1,000 ships. Well, the Living Macguffin has a similar ability to launch 1,000 quests. Um, the Living Macguffin, yes, many times in movies and television, the Living Macguffin is just there to look good. You know, oftentimes you can tell the Living Macguffin because uh, many times if they're female, the adversary, the antagonist in this series always gets to dress them up in something elegant slash revealing to show off their sexiness, and they pretty much have no agency. They're just there for other people to fight over. The proverbial um, princess in the tower, and the hero has to fight for that individual. Yeah, the Living Macguffin. Yeah. Oh man. Tesla talks about the Star Wars has the Royal Guard, the Emperor's Royal Guard, also known as the Royal Guard. The Imperial Guard is simply the Royal Guard, and under the Galactic Republic, as the Red Guard um, was an elite unit. Yeah, that it's very having a an elite guard separated from the military is another thing, which brings me to um, brings me to Wakabe, and Wakabe, much similar but not identical to the Royal Guard, is an individual that oh Nunya, yeah, Wakanda forever, absolutely. Um, mm, Cameron says I want to make Durhill King inspired by M'Baku. Not sure. I'm not sure what a Durhill is or what the reference is, but making a king, M'Baku makes a great example of a king. Well, technically he is, right? He's the leader of his own, the Jabari tribe, and that can be translated in any number of ways where you have this individual who is seemingly uncompromising, but once you find out where they stand, you're like, oh, I get what you mean. And they're also there to judge you as the protagonist, right? Like, go ahead, you can do your thing, but I'm sitting here in the background. I'm looking at you. You know. Now, Yarl DM says he's a great example of a character who shows an outward face of pure threat and savagery, but inside he's a thinker. Oh hell yes! And while outwardly seems like you said savage, uh, uh, um, very easy to get heated outwardly, when you realize what he's about, like he's sitting on a throne just relaxed while they're all talking and everything, and he's just looking at him like, listen, I'm already a couple steps ahead of you. I know why you're here. I know what you want, and I have the key. So let me just let you guys ramble on a little bit before I actually reveal what's going on. Cameron says a Durhii is a sentient winged mountain gorilla. I know them from Pathfinders. Sorry, they thought they were your D&D thing too. I did not know that was the name of the winged mountain gorillas. I did not know that. But yes, absolutely. And like like the character in Baku, some people don't mind if you think about it, even in his stance, like there's lots of lies talked about and rumors spread around about the Jabari tribe, and he's just like, let them talk. It makes me seem more fierce, and if that means I get more power from that, sure. Not every villain in a story is like, you said something bad about me, my feelings are hurt. Now Wakabi represents another adversary in a very lawful and or good society, which the Wakanda kind of represents from the outside, because Here he is. He's like, oh, I'm from the border tribe, and I'm the leader of the borders people, and I'm here to protect the country. But they added into it. Oh, you're fine, dead man. Yeah, they added into it the fact that in some ways, Wakabi is motivated by maybe guilt. He's motivated by service to his country. He's also motivated by like rage and anger and vengeance, because we find out that not only is he, a member of the border tribe raising armored rhinos and making sure that the country stays safe, but someone in the past broke into their country, stole the vibranium, and killed a bunch of people. A terrorist threat. And he's like waiting for who's ever in leadership, like, listen, I was promised that these people would be brought to justice, and it hasn't been done yet. And look, your dad didn't do it. You need to do it now, And there is, he's motivated. You end up finding out that on the outward surface, oh, I'm loyal to the country. I want to protect it. But he's motivated by a need for revenge, We're not there yet. We're not at the end yet. um, Rickard says, I still say M'Baku was reluctant. Still say M'Baku was a reluctant warrior, and with Shuri as the ruling queen would be interesting dynamic, which I read before. And I agree with you that as a reluctant Black Panther. So many people are talking about the fact that you're all right, Alejandro. Some are talking about the fact of, like, in a Black Panther 2 movie, what would happen. And of course, you cannot ignore that Winston Dukes made a very heavy impact into the Black Panther mythology and the MCU in general. Yeah, Cameron says M'Baku is a river to his people, a cool river that brings a calm breeze. Yeah. Now Zori, about to say Zori, Wakabi also, didn't come across as like one of the better characters in this story. Most likely on purpose. A little bit of a whiner, demanding of of T'Challa, of demanding of Black Panther to do something, a little impatient. Like, I need you to do something. I need you to do something now. It wasn't very clear in the beginning of the movie. There was a scene cut out where we find out that Wakabi and Okoye are married. They are a couple. But her loyalty was with the throne, not with, with when given a choice over the throne or her husband, she chose the throne, which put her loyalty pretty substantially, placed the loyalty in a particular spot. But Wakabi also kind of represents the an emotional state that maybe they want the protagonist to be in, and this kind of character can be there to keep pushing the PCs forward. Like, my feelings are hurt. I need something done. I'm angry. I'm sad. I'm fearful. Here's a person. And also Wakabi has a little bit of authority as well. And so, sure, as a common citizen, many times player characters are like, well, I can ignore that individual. But if this person is, say, the captain of the guard, the classic captain of the guard, there is this idea that ignoring this individual or putting them off or appeasing them, or not satisfying their needs, can start to bring about a bit of a problem. I.e., Wakabi sits back in the cut for a while until it comes to the time when a person sits on the throne that wants to bring about what he wanted. He's like, fine. And as a matter of fact, it gives you a clue as to what his intentions are, because he's part of the border tribe and he wants to sit in the back, right? He's technically his role is not to go anywhere. His role is to stay put, stay in the country, and protect the borders. And what's he say? Hey, listen, you need to go crack some heads. I'm willing to leave and take a couple of my heavy hitters with us. Let's go and let's leave. Which tells you that here's an individual that wants to leave in a small way what he's supposed to do, and do something else with his authority. And that makes a great character. That could even lead player characters. Yeah, Dead Man's like, just in time for the good part because we're in that last 15 minutes. All right, I don't know if that's going to happen, but yeah, whatever. But so, pretty important. Now, here's another group. Maybe not as important, but here's another group. This is a part of the mining tribe. If you guys don't know, in Wakanda, there's like the river. There's the river tribe represented by greens and aquamarines. Um, they are the spies of the nation, and then there's the mining tribe. The mining tribe, not given a lot of airplay, but the mining tribe, their look pulled from real African cultures where there are people who take like a red mud, mineral rich mud, and use it on their skin and even in their hair, coiling it in their hair and such. And the mining tribe, actually, well, they mine vibranium. And so they're very important, and you have to appease them economically. Kind of difficult to put into an action movie about economics, but you know, their opinion's pretty important when you have to mine ore for weapons, or they control the financial future of a country. And so they make a great enemy slash adversary, especially when their intentions, their yeah, when their things aren't met. I mean, their motivations aren't met. For example, if the mining tribe is threatened, or their work conditions are terrible, or they aren't valued. You know, some people just want to be respected. You know, and you disrespect somebody, the mining tribe could shut down everything in Wakanda, despite the fact that they aren't the most important tribe. And a lot of times, your lowest members, your blue collar workers in society, who tend to be ignored, tend to be very powerful, especially when they go on strike. You know, so it's the people who grow food. It's the people who build things. It's the crafting class or cast of people. Yeah, I'm with you, Rickard. I don't think Shuri fits as a Black Panther. Although it would be pretty interesting to have the Black Panther movie open up with her about to fight some nameless individual, and then the camera pans over and you find out that M'Baku's been training her to take the throne or something. That'd be pretty interesting. Pretty interesting as well. All right, so yeah, the Mayan tribe's good, and then also here we have the River tribe, and the River tribe. Although I'm sure, based on like within the fiction, actual rivers when it comes to traveling back and forth, but they also probably represent the easiest way, especially in the ancient past, to get in and out of the country. Go down the river. So it's low effort for maximum impact. And also, the River Tribe are the spies that are sent around the world. And this character never said a word, but also had a presence about him. And Nakia, you know, the love interest of T'Challa, Nakia, who wore a green dress, and her outfits tended to have that green color until towards the end of the movie, where she was wearing a Dora Milaje outfit. Um, Spies tend to be individuals who you're not sure if you can trust them. Again, adversary versus enemy, right? Where you don't know if you can trust them, but it's possible that they can help you out. They hide in the shadows, and maybe at some point the PCs need to hide in the shadows as well. You know. Yeah, Alejandro says, man, all the production of Wakanda was friggin' amazing. I cannot agree with you more. And it also says they did a good amount of world building in the movie. Absolutely. Uh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now, of course, we have our last two individuals, and that, of course, we can't ignore Killmonger. We cannot ignore Killmonger and Killmonger's importance, and of course, T'Challa, Black Panther himself. Killmonger, of course, is absolutely positively our big bad evil guy, right? There, Killmonger's the enemy. But more importantly, what I love about the Black Panther movie and them embracing Wakanda as a whole, and making that, you know, where Wakanda was itself was a character. is that it's a good example of in tabletop role playing of having like a lawful and or good society. And I don't mean that literally, but it pretty much is, right. It's a utopia. They have a resource, the most powerful and important resource in the world. They are technologically advanced, the most technologically advanced nation in the entire world. They are basically a utopia. And what happens? Killmonger is the stone thrown into the calm pond, right? He's the person, the great disruptor, where it makes everyone is living in stasis and going along to get along. And then here's this person that shows up, and now you find out where everybody sits, right? Because without Killmonger, life would have just gone on, and you would have never found out everyone. You would have never found out that Okoye would do battle against her own friends and family. You would never find out that Wakabe, maybe at some point, but you would never find out that Wakabe's pissed off. Like, listen, somebody stole vibranium and killed a bunch of people on our borders, and you guys aren't doing anything about it. I'm about to pick up a weapon and take arms myself. We would never find out about these things. We would never find out that about M'Baku's true loyalty to Wakandan culture, and that he's not a human eating cannibal that lives up in the mountains, who's nothing but a savage beast, right? You would never find out that in the story as we follow them along. So Killmonger as a character, of course, represents an individual. It's like he's just as skilled, just as powerful as our main character, but he's also the great disruptor. And great disruptors are awesome storytelling things. And so, of course, that's how T'Challa stands in the story, and he's surrounded by a bunch of people that are kind of like his family and friends, and they become his adversaries or can grow to become his adversaries at one point or another. Yeah. Alejandro says, I loved that. I knew that if they were going to make things cool, they were going to do that. Seriously, I love the uh, the just kidding, we're vegetarian scene. Yeah, we brought that up. Sorry, you did come in a little bit late, but yeah, we talked about that where he laughs at the CIA agent like, you'll keep your mouth shut or I'll feed you to my children. Oh, and you're like, yep. Like, Allie's like, yeah, I'm a vegetarian, so I'm totally biased. Oh, yeah, it was a great scene though, because he's like laughs at him like, yeah, because the guy thought he was serious. He's just like, listen, we're vegetarians. We're not going to feed you to our kids. But it is cool. So anyway, of course, we have our main character, Black Panther, and T'Challa himself. And as many people are positing, of course, the Black Panther is a title. Some have commingled being king and being Black Panther as the same thing, but if you follow the mythology, at least in the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you realize that they are not the same thing. That the king can give up the title of Black Panther, passing it on to his son, and still remain king. Once you're the impression is once you're king for life, until you step down or step down or you are removed from service. And I'm sure there's probably a possibility within their own culture, because there's also a challenge for the throne as well. So there's a little bit of physicality involved in it. So whether it's once a year or whatever the case may be, there's probably a procedure for the physical confrontation with the king, or at least physical confrontation with the current Black Panther to take that point. Yeah, Cameron says Killmonger is one of my favorite heroes in a while. He really made me think. When he died on screen, I was floored. I thought for sure he was going to be Black Panther's Vegeta. Yeah, me too. Although I have a feeling that a lot of the movie was wrapped around the words that he said at the very end. That was a pretty epic thing, and I understand that maybe those who are not intrinsically tied to the African diaspora. It was pretty. When he says bury me in the ocean with my ancestors because we would rather take death over bondage. It's like, oh my god, like wow. Now, mind you, it's like he's not in the ocean and things, but I have a feeling that was wrapped. It That ending scene, I don't. It would be hard pressed, I think, for me to delete that scene. Although, you know, the it's the nerd philosophy, right? No one ever really dies. Nerd philosophy means that is there a possibility they could bring him back? Yeah, they could. They could. Who's to say that Black Panther didn't pull out some? What we didn't see is he pulled out one of those uh Kamoyo beads or whatever and stuck it into his wound and saved his life. I mean, is it possible they did that? Sure. Now, um, the Black Panther is a title, and a lot of people are postulating whether M'Baku or Shuri should become Black Panther. In the comic books, uh, T'Challa's sister becomes the Black Panther for a while. Uh, According to the rules that they've given us, there's no way Shuri could even fight anyone without using trickery and or devices in a battle that's supposed to take away the powers of the Black Panther. So I can't see Shuri beating anyone, including M'Baku, unless M'Baku steps back. Although there is a possibility that Shuri and you could also make the case that Shuri and M'Baku actually do get ready to fight, and she punches him in the chest and doesn't do anything, and then he just takes a knee or something and is like, I yield. And everyone's like, what? And maybe he's just like, no, I think I don't think she could be a very good king. Although time has passed, and so maturity does come about. We don't know what happens behind the scenes, so that's a possibility. Although I think it would be a great story element to tell the story of the passing of the current king, and then our story is wrapped around who would become the next king is also a possibility. But who knows? Now, I know a lot of people are of the opinion that when somebody very important passes away, that to honor them we shouldn't continue the storyline. But I like the idea of continuing the legacy. And one of my coworkers even said, yeah, Alejandro was like, that could be cool for DMing. Oh yeah, where the current. Well, let's think about it. The current Game of Thrones, when Game of Thrones starts, it's literally very starts, but um um uh the current king Baratheon, forget his first name, dies, and there's a battle for the throne. That's where that whole multi factional battle begins, because everyone's like, oh, I should be on the throne. No, I should be. No, I should be. And so that happens. Yeah, Rickard says Killmonger was an ass that used the wrongs made against him as a righteous excuse to do it to others. Unfortunately, yeah, I agree with you. A lot of people were like, now I do agree Killmonger's probably has been voted probably one of the top 5 villains in fictional history, current fictional history, especially when it comes to comic book villains. A lot of people have said that they agree with Killmonger, ignoring the fact that he killed his girlfriend, killed his own ally, set fire to the purple flowers, choked a woman for not listening to him. Everybody forgot about that part. Oh, and also forgot about the fact that let's take over the world like they took over the world for us. Now, I get his motivation. I think his motivation makes perfect sense because people do that kind of thing. Yeah, he's an interesting. Rickard says he's an interesting concept that went off the rails. Oh yeah, people. I think it makes sense that he went off the rails. I think that literally is a person who lived a terrible life and was filled with hatred and jealousy. Like, you left me on the streets of L.A. when I could have been living in utopia, and you did it because you were hiding a secret. Like, whoa, like that's asinine, right? Judith Fuzz says maybe Shuri becomes Black Panther by default because she simply doesn't get challenged about it. Yes, that is the idea that maybe she doesn't get challenged. Although they did tell us M'Baku doesn't like her um, because she doesn't respect their traditions. So I can't really see M'Baku stepping back from a challenge unless, of course, there's some other he has some other reason to do so, like training her or feeling like all he wanted to have is to be respected and have a seat on the council or something like that. Because he is given a seat on the council at the very end of the movie, despite being an adversary. You know what I mean? So that's possible too. And again, time passes, so maybe M'Baku's gone. We don't know why, maybe she's already queen and we're like, we don't understand why. And then maybe something is revealed that way as well. Rickard says, had he been more true to his cause, he would have been even more interesting, though. True, but had he been more true to his cause, he wouldn't be a villain. he'd be a superhero. So the point that made him interesting was you could understand his motivation and still hate him, right? Yeah. Like your LDM says, a sign of a good villain is that their mission or vision is in some way more sympathetic. And how many times have we seen real life individuals or rebels or people who want to assert the status quo and go like, oh, I believe in this person, and then they what do? They execute somebody, an innocent individual, in the middle of the street, and then you're like, okay, maybe I don't want to listen to you, right? Because if Killmonger was any more sympathetic, there would have been no reason to have a fight to the death, right? It would just be a fight to the a fight to the yield, and that wasn't the case. He wanted to tear down the old system. He wasn't there to embrace the old system, so that's why. It's just like the Thanos thing, It's like, oh, I understand, but you're stupid. Yeah, like Rickard says, if he was, let's take revenge on the wrongdoers rather than I will kill anyone who doesn't agree with me. Yeah, which he spouted, let's take revenge on the wrongdoers. His actions said, and I'll kill anyone who doesn't agree with me. So yeah. um, Alejandro says a warrior culture where you should show your physical strength to be king, but someone abdicates because the weaker challenger would be a better king. I think it's a pretty good storyline. I think so. Jarl DM goes on to say the actions don't have to be sympathetic. A villain is often just a hero that is unfettered and does whatever it takes to achieve their goal, regardless of morality. Let's see if I can get your all DM started. Like Batman. Is a perfect example of that, right? Like someone whose chains has been released, like Cameron says, they continued the Harry Potter movies after Richard Harris died, and no one cared. We miss Richard, but that doesn't mean the show doesn't need to go on. And listen, we as consumers love these individuals, and we commingle them together. Like no one else can play Black Panther, no one else can play Tony Stark, and no one else can play Captain America. But the truth of the matter is, they are employees doing a job they've been hired to do. And when someone passes away in our own jobs, we feel sorry, and maybe there's even a moment of silence or a shutdown or something, but we go back to work. And making movies and being creative, and even in the artistic world, it's just a job. Sorry, but it is, and we can hire someone else. For everybody that was like, no one can replace Wolverine, no one else can be a better Joker, and then we find another Joker, and like, well, no one can replace that Joker, and we find another one. We'll find somebody who could replace T'Challa if that is what they want to do. We can just insert another actor into that role, and just have that actor start off, and they don't even need to explain it at all. We have a new actor. This individual is playing T'Challa. Move on. That's a possibility. I'm not saying they're going to do it, but yeah. Alejandro's like, Cesar Romero. Anyway, like, your all DM's like, in this essay, I'll explain why Batman is a capitalist fascist power fantasy. I got him started. I got you started in here. Anyway, oh shit. Oh man. Yeah, Tesla Ranger says before we get out of here, besides the royal family, Wakanda is a tribal nation consisting of 5 other great tribes: the River Tribe, the Border Tribe, the Mining Tribe, the Merchant Tribe, and the Jabari Tribe. Yes, 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 absolutely. All right, guys. So thank you very much for letting me just go down this winding path. Um, honoring the man, his untimely passing, and also honoring the creative aspects. And listen, I'm a Black American. This is something that I hold true to my heart, and I just want to share the love that I have for it, without being completely inclusive of anyone and everything, and just letting people know, like, here's the reasons why I love it, and here's the story elements I pull from it. So tomorrow, World Building Wednesday, we're going to try to build ourselves our own Wakanda. Yeah, kind of daunting, I think, because as we already said today, we've pulled other elements from other things to represent Wakanda, but we're going to do our own. We're going to do our best to build our own. So that's going to be pretty interesting thing to do. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for being here. I will see you later. See you bright and early Monday if you live here in the States. See you later. Thank you for watching. Bye.